The World, directed by Chinese director Jia Zhangke, released in 2004, was created at a time when China was undergoing rapid globalization, marked by accession to the World Trade Organization in 2001 and aggressive push for organization and market reform. This period witnessed growing socio-economic inequality, mass rural to urban migration, and the deepening disconnect between national progress narratives and the lived experiences on the ground. Within this context, the world articulates a radical cinematic vision that aligns with the political and aesthetic commitments of third cinema. Issuing Hollywood's spectacle and narrative closure, Jia crafts an understated visual language grounded in long takes, static composition, and realistic mise-en-scène. Through these stylistic choices, the world becomes a meditation on the psychological toll of globalization and the fractured subjectivities of migrant laborers navigating urban modernity. In foregrounding the daily lives, affective isolation, and the spatial entrapment of rural migrants, Jia not only critiques the violence of neoliberal transformation, but also, in the spirit of third cinema, amplifies the voice of those marginalized by both capital and mainstream media. What renders the word particularly resonant is in the formal structure. The visuals do not merely illustrate the narrative, but also themselves the site of political engagement. Solana's and Gaetino's foundational manifesto towards a third cinema insists that the revolutionary cinema must restore words, dramatic actions, and images to the places where they can carry out a revolutionary role and explicitly oppose the logic of capitalist spectacle. Unlike first cinema's commercialism or second cinema's individualism, third cinema is a cinema of liberation that seeks not to entertain but to provoke, politicize, and subvert. The world exemplifies this spirit. Jia's formal austerity, his refusal of melodrama, narrative resolution, or fast-paced editing, constitutes not the stylistic quirk but the anti-spectacle strategy. The film's long takes and elliptical rhythm resist the digestible, closed world of bourgeoisie cinema, and instead situate the viewer in a dislocated temporality that mirrors the social condition of his subjects. One of the most visually arresting sequences in the world captures Tao, who is the protagonist of the film, and Little Sister, who is a male construction worker despite his feminine nickname. They stand on a desolate construction site as the plane ascends in the background. The camera lingers in a static long take, giving the scene a quiet gravity. Concrete columns and skeletal scaffolding dominate the frame, enclosing the characters in a visual cage. The airplane suggests transnational mobility, an emblem of capitalist progress and the fantasy of escape. Yet Tao and the Little Sister remain immobile, dwarfed by the unfinished architecture. Tong Lu interprets things like this as the depreciation of labor going hand in hand with the splendor of the spectacle of the wealth. This visual dialectic reveals how the promise of globalization, flight, speed, freedom, remains out of reach for those trapped in the margins of development. This tension between fantasy and the material constraint is central to the film's political critique. As Gaetano writes, the film deftly illustrates deterritorialization, the dislocation of authentic culture, identity, and the meaning from place, wrought by these global processes. The World Park theme park, with its replicas of the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids, collapses global and local into a single, disorienting visual field. In one thing, a waste picker charges through the periphery with a massive bag of recyclables as the Eiffel Tower replica looms in the distance. The contrast between laboring body and the symbols of cosmopolitan modernity becomes a visual indictment of neoliberalism's uneven development. Gaetano explains that although the workers produce a spectacle for tourists, they themselves experience limited, if any, actual economic, social, and spatial mobility. Jia frames these workers at the edge of screen, mirroring their social marginalization in aesthetic terms. This spatial critique of globalization finds one of the most intimate and affecting expression in the gendered body. Through Tao, Jia offers a nuanced portrayal of the emotional and psychological cost borne disproportionately by a rural woman. While men like Taishen, who is her boyfriend, can access informal economics, Tao's experience is marked by isolation, exploitation, and constrained mobility. As Lu notes, women, by contrast, are reduced to selling their bodies in the hope of gaining upward mobility. Tao is framed along the corridors, stairwells, and backstage areas, spaces signify both physical and emotional liminality. Gaetano further argues that Tao is subject to exploitation not only on the basis of her class, but also gender, as her body is sexualized and commodified. Rather than dramatizing her despair, Jia allows the camera to dwell on her small gestures and silences, creating a realism that resists spectacle while staging presence. The film becomes political not through declaration, but through the sustained act of making visible what is often rendered invisible. Jia's refusal of narrative closure aligns with the ethos of third cinema. Solanas and Gaetano argue that revolutionary cinema should not comfort or reserve but intervene, politicize, and provoke. Every image that documents, they said, becomes something which the system finds indigestible. The world offered precisely such indigestible images. Its aesthetic of slowness, repetition, and stasis do not deliver catharsis. Instead, they force viewer to dwell in contradiction. As Lu writes, Jia's approach functions as counterdispositive, resituating what has become sacred back into the zone of free usage of human beings. In this way, the world opens up space for critical thinking and repoliticization. In conclusion, the world reveals the structural contradiction of globalizing China through its aesthetic and narrative choices. Through motifs of entrapment, grids, frames, visual dissonance, Jia constructs a formal vocabulary of critique that operates independently of dialogue. The film's aesthetic is not merely realistic but interventionist. It displaces the viewer, demands attention, and renders visible what dominant cinema erases. In this way, the world enacts what Solanas and Gaetano describe as cinema that recognizes the most gigantic culture, scientific, and artistic manifestation of our time. A cinema that dares to be outside and against the system. By refusing to beautify suffering or offer ideological comfort, Jia contributes to the long project of cinematic decolonization, not only through content, but through form.